My name, my name is Melanie Smith Guillaume, and I'm on the committee that does the Lunch with the League. I think all of you probably know that the League is nonpartisan. We do voter service work, education work, and action on issues that we've studied only. lwvsouthbend.org is our website, and you can go there to find out about what we're doing. We have a lot of things going on right now. The latest newsletter from Jerry Pawelski just came out, and it was long with lots of information about the Regional League of the Great Lakes and opportunities to register voters and so forth. So being a nonpartisan group, things that you may hear today may or may not represent the position of the League. We do not support candidates or parties, only the issues we've studied. So today we're welcoming for our speaker, let's see, I'm trying to run through to get your long bio here. Conductor and music director of the South Bend Symphony, Alastair Willis. And he's going to talk to us about the South Bend Symphony and the orchestra's 90th anniversary season. He is the music director of the South Bend Symphony and the principal conductor and artistic advisor for the Symphonia Boca Raton. He's lived in many other places. He's was Grammy nominated for Best Classical Album in 2009. Moscow, England, the United States, Florida. I won't go into it all. I'm going to let him tell us what he has to say about the symphony. So thank you, Alastair. You're on.
Well, thank you very much, Melanie. Can everyone hear me? If not, wave your hands or do something. Hadn't planned to start like this, but London Bridge has fallen. Code for we've lost our Queen, and I did a few decorations. Let me just start by showing them to you. You've got the big Union Jack in the back, but right here we have, of course, my mum's tea towel from a Jubilee, God Save the Queen. We have the Queen there waving with one of her corgis, one of her little egg pot there. We've got the British Bulldog, and of course, Gorbachev Matryoshka doll in the back, because we lost him too, so recently. Yes, so what a legacy that the Queen has left this world. I am reminded that when I was performing in, oh gosh, hang on. I was on London's West End stage, the equivalent of Broadway, in Fame the Musical. This was back in the mid-90s. And one of the cast members, our leading cast member, went missing for a few months. They say fame might have gone to his head, you know, pun intended, but we didn't know about him. The understudy went on for quite a while. And then before one Saturday morning matinee, the producer showed up and announced that his body had been found in the River Thames. And Saturday we have two shows, and it was just the awful news, and we were so sad. And one of the cast members just broke the sadness, the mesmerism, if you will, by saying, well, thank goodness we're not doing Les Miserables today. Fame being a show about life, youth, energy, and dreams and drama, but I feel very similarly right now. Thank goodness we're not talking about anything down or bad, because we're talking about the South Bend Symphony Orchestra, and that is full of life and positivity and energy. So my talk today has three parts. Thank you for inviting me again, Melanie. And the three parts are in celebration of our orchestra and our community. Number one, how the South Bend Symphony Orchestra has impacted our community for 90 years through outreach, education, and diversity. Part 2, the music of our upcoming season. And Part 3, questions. That's coming from you. And I think, Melanie, you know the drill. Just put them into the chat, and then we'll ask those at the end. And I look forward to those very much. Okay, 90 years, not as many as Her Majesty, 96, but still a lot to reflect on. And first, I'd actually like to start by defining the word symphony. I'm sure many of you know the word symphony is derived from the Greek syn, meaning together, and phone, meaning voice or sound. So symphony means playing together. And to me, playing together doesn't just mean the musicians on the stage. It includes the audience and the community. I'm sure everybody on this call and listening has probably attended and or supported the South Bend Symphony Orchestra. And thank you. You are an essential part of our history and our present, and very much part of our playing together, our symphony. We exist in thanks to people like you. You're our audience, our donors, our sponsors, and without you, we couldn't do what we do, which is why we play nice. 90 years ago, we began as a local pickup ensemble made up of volunteers. We were a community orchestra. I look back and I'm inspired by the music director, Edwin Hames. He was our first, and he was music director for 40 years. And his tenure is considered one of the longest in the American Symphony Orchestra history. I'm on my 6th season here. I've got a long way to go. As the orchestra grew, you'll know that it moved from venue to venue, starting at the Progress Club, played at Notre Dame, Central High School, St. Mary's, John Adams High School, and finally to the Morris Civic Auditorium, which is now known as the Morris Performing Arts Center. So in 90 years, yes, we have evolved. We're now a fully professional orchestra, but all of our players are members of the Musicians Union, and many drive long distances to play with us. Yet we are still a community orchestra. We started as the community playing for ourselves, but now we're an orchestra of professionals playing for the community. We are community partners and partners with our community. Let me digress just for a second. Have you all heard of the famous tenor Enrico Caruso? This is a little pre-Luciano Pavarotti and these big names. One of the greatest tenors ever to sing. And he said something that I think of a lot. He said, a man doesn't own a voice. The voice owns the man. And I'm not trying to compare myself with Caruso in any way, but I see my role a little similarly. I may own a baton, but it's music that really owns me. And the voice, the music exists for who? For our community. It must be shared. In fact, everything we do at the South Bend Symphony Orchestra is community focused. And I just love that about my job. When we moved here 3 years ago, I spent my first 2 years commuting from Seattle, where we lived before. But when we moved here full-time 3 years ago, I would wake up every day and look for new ways I could make South Bend a better place through music. And I still do. That's my job. And, you know, all my predecessors had this motive as well. Over the years, our outreach, education, diversity has evolved. And I'd like now to look back at how the orchestra's impact has expanded and become deeper and bigger than ever before. So let's begin at the top with education. It could be argued that every single concert we do is educational, right? I mean, it is. We learn something, we are inspired, we come away slightly different. But I'm referring specifically to our education concerts, our Shine Family Young People's Discovery concerts. Do you all know about those? We do them 2 packed days a year. We have 2 performances back to back, so a 10:30 and then a 12 o'clock, and we bus kids, 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders from all over the area into the Morris, bust them out, bust the next ones in. I mean, it's an operation in itself. And we serve anywhere, depending on the pandemic year, between 5,000 and 6,000 students. They come and they hear us. I've said this many times before, I'll say it again. These are our most important concerts. Sure, we can bring Yo-Yo Ma or a member of the Berlin Philharmonic, right? They're great, we love those concerts. But what can compare to seeing a child's eyes light up at hearing a live symphony orchestra for the very first time? What can compare to inspiring a child to love music, to receive a letter years later that says, "Dear Mr. Willis, your concert inspired me to follow a career in music." I mean, this is what we live for. This is what we do, why we do what we do. And these are just fantastic concerts. Our education outreach has expanded over the years, and it now involves 3 Symphony to Go. We call them STG, the Symphony to Go program. I'm sure you're familiar with it. We have a woodwind quintet, a string quintet, and a brass quintet that perform all over the city. I think it's close to 60 free concerts in retirement communities, schools, libraries, civic organizations, etc. And we surround our community with music with these. So these are the head of our education outreach, and it's ongoing, it's ever evolving, and it's really exciting to be a part of. Okay, what about our diversity? This at the moment is extraordinarily important. Well, much of our 90 years was spent like other similar size orchestras, focusing on music by dead white European composers. Okay, white Joseph Haydn was the father of the symphony, fact. But until a few years ago, I was actually unaware of any black classical composers. Now, this had always somewhat bothered me, and now what bothered me even more was that I hadn't pushed to find out if there were any. I'd accepted that if there had been, I would have known about them. Sure, composers like Mozart, Beethoven, and Brahms did great, innovative, radical things for the evolvement of our art form, and will always be important in our concerts for sure, and our seasons. But there are other worthy composers out there as well. So, after George Floyd's murder, the South Bend Symphony Orchestra formed an Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee, that's EDI, which I'm proud to say has become the envy of orchestras our size nationwide. Chaired by Dr. Marvin Curtis, and I know at least one of our listeners is on the committee as well, Beth North. We had our first meeting a couple of years ago. There were about 15 of us, and we went around the Zoom introducing who we were and why we were on the committee. I was one of 3 non-African American members, and pretty much everybody else said the same thing, that they were only on this committee because Dr. Marvin Curtis had asked them to be, because he's a doer, he gets things done. And all these people said repeatedly that they'd been in so many other committees and they just couldn't be on another one where it was all talk and no action. It was unbelievable to hear the passion with which these people spoke. You can read our full EDI statement on our website, southbendsymphony.com, and it's powerful. It's essential as we and our world and our community here goes forward. We just a couple of points in it. We acknowledge in this America's legacy of systemic racism in our society, in particular how that legacy has permeated the American orchestra scene. Okay, great, but what can we do about it? Well, we can and are addressing the inequities faced by African Americans in our art form. If you've been connected with the symphony for the last few years, you'll know we have. We're taking action and programming more music by underrepresented composers. We've got a more diverse representation on our board. And what's amazing for me is that we've made this an ongoing part of our bylaws. It's not going to stop when the next board chair ends, or I leave, I'm not leaving, or the executive director leaves, or there's a change of regime. This is something that is ongoing. It's not going to stop. So I take a step back from this and I like try to consider what my role is and what I can do. I read recently that South Bend, as you will know, is about 50%, 52% white, 27% Black, 16% Hispanic or Latino. So how can we be in service to our whole community to play together symphony with them and not just part of them? Well, what do we do and what have we done? This is just, I love researching this and finding this out and being able to share this. So a Martin Luther King Jr. celebration concert, as I'm sure you all know, this was started about 15 years ago by, oh, there's that name again, Dr. Marvin Curtis. And I was particularly excited when I got the job because I'd never conducted one. But you know what my first thought was? Well, am I even qualified? Could I conduct a concert because of my skin color? Well, I was assured that it would be great diversity for me, a white music director, to conduct this Martin Luther King program. And I'm like, okay, great. And I noticed that 2 weeks earlier on our season, we had a Black guest conductor, Raymond Harvey, lead an all Handel program. Okay, I thought, this is good. So I threw my heart and soul into it, as I do for all my concerts. I called all my Black conductor colleagues for guidance, and it was and continues to be an education. And that's really what has spiraled my love and my desire and my energy to find new music that is great that I might not have known about. Doesn't matter who it's by. So of course, we did these for many years, as I mentioned, but we had to now address how successful and impactful these Martin Luther King Jr. Celebration Day concerts were. Did many people attend? I mean, has anybody here ever attended I mean, you can give a wave of your hand. I can't, don't all say I can't hear that. Just give a wave. I mean, that's wonderful, but not many people do attend. And it's tough to expect an audience on MLK Day because if you ever attended the early breakfast at the convention center and the many fascinating talks, you know, come 7 o'clock, the biggest pull is to bed, not to the Morris, right? So we reconsidered all this with our EDI committee, and we have reshaped our concerts, our MLK concerts. Last year, we decided to take our musical celebrations into the community. We had three concerts and then added a fourth a few months later because of COVID, not at the Morris and not on Martin Luther King Jr. Day itself. Our Woodwind Symphony to Go group performed in 3 African-American churches, collaborating with their musicians and choirs. We were met with open arms. Connections and relations have started and since continued. We heard over and over how meaningful this was for each church and for us. The impact was huge. We even had a film crew there to document it, and we produced a 60-minute program that aired on Juneteenth of this year about those concerts. Incidentally, for last year's Juneteenth, we put on a special concert of African-American composers and videoed that. And the production included interviews of locals like Gladys Muhammad, recounting amazing stories of South Bend's history. And I believe both of these documentaries are available online. And if you'd like to see them and can't find them online, please send an email to the office. And they are just fascinating. We are so, so proud of them. But there's more. I'm still on diversity. There's more. This past March, for the first time in our then 89-year history, we programmed a Masterworks concert with music solely by African-American composers. And what did we call it? Did we call it African-American composers? No, we called it American composers, because that's what they are. And it was a huge success. There's still more, because this season, we continue celebrating diversity. Remember, I said it was ongoing. And just a quick sneak preview into our Young People's Discovery concerts this coming November. We're going to be tackling, we're on a 3-year program. We're going to do the classical era this November. Next year, we'll do the romantic era. And the year after, we'll do contemporary music. So, and we'll repeat these 3 as we go. So we've got pretty much carte blanche. And how we're dealing with the classical era is that we'll focus on 4 top classical composers. Right, it's quiz time now. take a moment and see if you can name them, the 4 top classical composers that we might be considering. Did anybody get Haydn? Joseph Haydn? Absolutely, he's there. He's one of them. How about someone called Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart? Absolutely, got him. Anyone get Beethoven? Great. Did anyone get Joseph Bologna, the Chevalier of Saint-Georges? Joseph Bologna was the first classical composer of the first known classical composer of African origin. That's a name we should all know. And this is so important, to have these 4 composers, not just your big 3, your Haydn, Mozart, Beethoven, in an education concert. I'm convinced that many of our students will be able to see themselves and identify even closer to the music and the composers, as well as learn great things and hear great music. Incidentally, the South Bend Symphony Orchestra, we've already performed 2 pieces by Joseph Bologna, and we're playing a piece of his at our opening concert in 2 weeks' time. 2 weeks, wait. Yes, 2 weeks' time. The 24th and 25th. I thought it might be next week. I panicked for a moment. And what a segue into the second part of my talk, the music of our upcoming season. Okay, let's take a 7th inning stretch and break. We've done education, diversity, and outreach. And now 90th season is upon us. Well, the overview bullet points of our season. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's our 90th, so we had to expand it from 16 to 23 concerts. That's a 30% increase. That's huge. And we're all working overtime, but this is a celebration that we have seized, and we are running with it, and we are so excited with how it's already started with our Chris Wilson outdoor concert and our Gift of Music Gala just recently. I mean, we're already started, but the Masterwork starts next in 2 weeks. It's a combination of local and international talent. We've more community collaboration than ever before, and we've got 3 of the world's top soloists coming to South Bend. And the 5th is filled with great music. I'll start with the 5 Masterworks. So in 2 weeks, we open with one of the best French horn players in the world. She happens to be my sister. I'm not biased. She is considered that by more people than just me and my mum. She's a member of a small orchestra called the Berlin Philharmonic. You might have heard of them, they're quite good. And this concert is essentially a celebration concert. We've got fun, witty music by Stravinsky that tells the story of Pulcinella. Think Punch and Judy, if you know what that is, a puppet, very fun, very fantastic music. My sister will play Mozart's 3rd Horn Concerto, and we'll hear the overture to The Anonymous Lover, the opera by Joseph Bologna, and a romp of a piece about a Parisian nightlife, a Parisian nightclub by Darius Milhaud. It's called The Ox on the Roof. And you know us by now. That will there be surprises along the way? I think that you can expect a few, and they might have something to do with my sister's love of Cuban music. So this is just a real celebration in a couple of weeks. And we've got a Saturday evening and a Sunday matinee option. It's going to be at De Bartolo because we didn't know that they'd be finished at the Morris by then. So our 2nd Masterworks in November, which is going to be at the Morris, we welcome back esteemed guest conductor David Lockington. He was the former music director of the Grand Rapids Symphony Orchestra. You may have been up there and heard him conduct. He's got a watery program. We've got Wagner's Flying Dutchman Overture, the St. Joseph River Suite, that's keeping it local. The suite and the music was written by Marvin Curtis and Brian Eddington. Smetana's classic river piece called The Moldau, and Debussy's The Sea, La Mer. Masterworks 3 continues our Silk Road exploration. If you've been keeping up with us for the last 5 years, you'll know that I've had a connection with Yo-Yo Ma's award-winning Silk Road Ensemble. Phenomenal musicians. We just creates enormous, incredible sounds. musicians from all over the world, but they're all individual soloists as well. So we've had in the last 3 years, Sandeep Das, the tabla player from the Silk Road Ensemble, Wu Man, the pipa player from China, and just last March we had Kenan Azmeh, the Syrian clarinetist, playing his own piece. And for our Masterworks 3 coming up this season, we welcome the world's foremost Comanche player, Kehan Kaylor. He'll be playing his own piece, and it's called The Silent City. Who here is familiar with what a Comanche is? Not many hands. Well, you will be soon when you come to the concert. A Comanche is an Iranian bowed instrument. It dates back to the 10th century. It's about the size of a violin, but instead of held like a violin, it's held like a cello. And you play sitting down cross-legged. It's got a really thin neck and a small round body, and it makes the most hauntingly beautiful sound you've ever heard. Kehan's playing and his piece will transport us. In the second half, we will have Brahms' beloved Symphony No. 2, and that is going to be just a fantastic program. Masterworks 4. We have 5 Masterworks in total. The 4th Masterworks, we finally get to conclude our Beethoven symphony cycle with the big one, number 9, Ode to Joy. If you recall, we've been pairing each of the Beethoven symphonies with music by top living composers. And for this concert, our first half has music by 2 of the biggest names, Mason Bates and Carter Pan. And both of their pieces connect with Beethoven 9. Mason's is called Ode, or he likes to say Ode, which is how the Germans would say Ode. And it deconstructs the famous melody. He deconstructs that in a very clever way in about 9 minutes. And it's just an incredible forerunner before you hear the actual full Beethoven original in the second half. Carter Pan's piece Slalom has a very special place in my heart because it was, people say it's the piece that I won the job with. On my audition concert 6-7 years ago was Dvorak's New World Symphony, Mendelssohn's Violin Concerto, and this unknown piece by Carter Pan. Slalom tells a story of a ski run, a 10-minute ski run starting in Steamboat Springs and coming down the mountain and listening and having music in your ears. And it starts with a quote from Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. So to revisit this special piece for all of us, because I got to be honest, people still remember my audition concert, but they don't remember the Dvorak or how great my interpretation may or may not been. They don't remember how great I accompanied the concertmaster of the Chicago Symphony, Robert Chen, on the Mendelssohn Violin Concerto. They say, oh, yes, Carter Pan Slalom, that was the coolest piece ever. I hope you're going to do that again. And we are. We're going to do that on Masterworks 4. And we'll close our Masterworks season with a bang. Rachmaninoff's ravishing 3rd Piano Concerto, think of the movie Shine, and that will be with Alexander Lexotoradze's prodigy, Päivi Ekroth. Päivi is phenomenal. She came here over 20 years to study with Lexo and never left. She's been gracing our community and Notre Dame with her magic fingers ever since. She is just incredible. And we close with Tchaikovsky's powerful Symphony No. 4. But that's just the Masterworks. Of course, our season also includes, as usual, our Chris Wilson Pavilion concert. Maybe some of you came to that just a few weeks ago. Wasn't outdoor because of the weather. We had to go indoors to John Adams High School. And of course, that concert usually involves our community who get to come and play along with us. And we hope to get back to that tradition next year. So playing together with our community right there. We have a family concert. This year it'll be with the Notre Dame Children's Choir and will be The Snowman by Howard Blake. We have our Martin Luther King concerts where again, we're going into local area churches. We've spoken about our Young People's Discovery concerts. We've got a great pop season as well with accompanying Ghostbusters on the 29th of October, the original movie, not the modern one. And we've got a tango pops and we've got music from Woodstock. So all of these concerts make a normal season, right? But is 90th anniversary a normal season? Do we have any specials, I hear you ask? I hear you ask. Thank you. Indeed, we do. Specials include collaborations with dancers from La Casa de Amistad and the renowned mariachi trio Chapultepec for a Dia de los Muertos concert on October the 30th. Collaboration with Southall Dance Theatre as we play for their Nutcrackers this year in December. A collaboration, of course, as you all know, with South Bend Civic Theatre on West Side Story next month. What is it, the 9th? Yes, we have a performance on the 9th of October. Mambo. We played, what, no, hang on, I've lost my thought here. Yes, we played at our Gift of Music gala 2 weeks ago. That was a special concert because the orchestra hasn't done that before. We've got a composers competition coming up for Indiana composers. We're calling it the Crossroads of America. It's our first foray into something like that, and that'll be in January. And oh yes, we've got a concert with a cellist called Yo-Yo something. Yo-Yo, that's right, Ma. Yeah, I hear he's pretty good. So to all that, I say one word: phew. What a season. We're just so excited and so proud of it. So before I open up to questions read by Melanie, I'd like to close with the idea of legacy. Does anyone else here think about legacy? And we're surrounded now, and we will be for the next 10 days, of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth's legacy of 96 years. And you know, I think about legacy a lot, and our orchestra's legacy over the past 90 years, I feel is quite substantial. I'm grateful for it, and I'm proud of it. I'm proud of where we are now, and I'm extremely optimistic for our next 90 years. But as I see it, legacy is not leaving something for people. It's leaving something in people. And the South Bend Symphony Orchestra has done that and will continue doing that in our community by playing together and playing nice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alastair. I'm not sure how many questions we have. We have some comments, but I'm going to take a look here. This one is a thank you. Delighted to see the banners up downtown in LaPorte, featuring the musicians of the LaPorte City Orchestra. This honor usually had been for high school athletes in LaPorte, and how can the wonderful musicians of the South Bend Civic Orchestra be better publicized?
Oh, that's such a great question. You know, I saw the LaPorte banners on Facebook. I've conducted them several times. In fact, I'm going to be a judge at Hoosier Star next Saturday. What an honor. And I just love the idea of putting up our musicians. You know, I'm reminded of San Francisco. I conducted there a few times, visited there several times 15, 18 years ago. And you can't go anywhere in that city, or couldn't go anywhere in that city, without seeing some poster, some street lamp with a big picture of Michael Tilson Thomas, their longtime music director. And I think they renamed streets for the Michael Tilson Thomas Avenue, or things like that. And then the musicians would be up on the street lamps as well. I really hope it's something that we can do here. I love that idea. And it's important. I mean, it shouldn't just be the music director. It has to be the people who actually make the music. And we're talking about that. If we were to jump right now and steal LaPorte's idea, I don't know, there's no rules, we could, but perhaps sometime by the end of this season, we can be doing something like that. I hope so.
Okay, while I'm looking for the next question, I see a hand with Judy Bradford. So perhaps you can go in here while I'm looking. Judy?
Hi. I want to know if you have ever listened to music from a show called The Orville. It's on Hulu. It's a science fiction. The plots are fairly predictable for science fiction, but sometimes I watch it just to listen to the music, not just the opening song either, or the concluding theme, but throughout the show. It's absolutely, and it is popular music, but it's gorgeous music.
I don't know. Did you say it's the Orville?
The Orville, Orville. And it's a spoof of Star Trek is what it
Cool.
is. And I know the symphony has done Star Trek, Star Wars concerts. And I thought, wow, the music from the Orville would fit right into that.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. I'm not aware of that, but I will listen and watch an episode as soon as I can. You said Hulu. Great. Well, thank you. Brilliant. Melanie, we can't hear you if you're on. If you're talking, Melanie, we can't hear you.
Yeah. Excuse me, Melanie just called. Her screen went black, so
Oh.
I'm gonna take over.
All right, Pam. I think NIMBY had some had a hand up.
Oh, okay. Thank you, because I was
just going to say, I sent this comment to Melanie and she's not there to read it. So Alastair, first of all, I'm so grateful that you allowed yourself to be lured from Seattle to South Bend, because there's no place like that part of the country. I lived in Tacoma for about 7 years and go frequently back to Seattle. So thank you for coming.
Oh,
And Jill, your dad, and the Ellington information that you gave, I tried to comment to you, but I sent it to Jane Pitts instead. But thank you for that. I wasn't aware of Duke Ellington and the Nutcracker, but I'll be searching the library for that. And then lastly, Alastair, any thoughts about Black female composers of classical music?
absolutely. Great question. We performed in March music by Florence Price, her piano concerto. Yep. With an African-American pianist. Her name is, I'll come back to the most prominent African-American pianist playing it right now. Please, someone maybe research and give me that name. Wonderful lady. We're going to be doing not this season, but next season, another piece by Florence Price. Valerie Coleman is also a fantastic African-American female composer. And there are a couple others. I'm just trying to get with my brain right now, but yes, there are, and we are onto it, and it's all part of our future.
Thank you.
Melanie, are you back?
I'm back, but go ahead with the next question.
Oh, okay, well, this wasn't a question. I'm still doing, I haven't done anything yet. The next comment was, Judy Bradford said she loved the Queen's bobblehead. And I had said that I love your interest and passion for the equity and the inequity issue in South Bend, and we're so lucky to have you here.
Thank you.
Those aren't questions, those are just comments. And Jill said, and some of this NIMBY's already covered, Jill had said that she loved Duke Ellington's The River Suite, and has South Bend Symphony performed it?
No, Michelle Kahn is the name. I just looked it up, of the phenomenal pianist who came here. Yes, the other, so Valerie Coleman and then Jessie Montgomery. We've already performed music by all three of those female top fantastic composers, African-American composers. Want to just circle back there, and we will perform more in the future. I love the Ellington River Suite. We haven't performed it. One of the things that you might find interesting is all of our visions and dreams are governed by the budget, right? And sometimes we can do crazy huge projects that cost so much because they involve so many more people. Now, a lot of the classical composers, they knew, well, let's keep it small and I'll get our pieces played a bit more often. Be cheaper, right? So they knew what they were doing. The Ellington River Suite is huge, and we've got looking for the right opportunity where we can make it really work. It's rarely performed because it is quite expensive. It's as simple as that. But it's great music, and I love it. And of course, yes, we did the Nutcracker, Ellington's Nutcracker. It's a jazz take on all of the all of Tchaikovsky's originals. And when I heard that for the first time, I just like fell in love. It's so great.
Okay, and she also said that Nutcracker, Ellington's Nutcracker was played about 20 years ago in the youth concert. And then, and that her father in law, right, Jill,
Wow.
Maurice, played violin in the symphony in the 30s.
Wow. Incredible. What a connection.
Yeah.
I think his picture is up in the office. You know, you have some very old pictures of the early symphonies, and I think he's included in that.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jill.
Then I had to, of course, say your enthusiasm is so wonderful and contagious. I'm going to go get every ticket. Cynthia asks, how many instruments do you play? I see a grand piano. You have to know all the instruments, of course, but how many instruments do you play?
Piano was my first instrument. I was a trumpet player and percussion, and I sing. So those are really my main four. But really, I conduct now, and that's playing the orchestra, if you will. It sounds a bit pretentious, but you know what I mean. And you're right. I don't have to know how to play each instrument. I do, but I don't have to know how to play it as well as my musicians. I need to know how to help them play it better.
Yeah, I took dance classes when I was a kid, and my teacher told me that she didn't have to know how to do the splits to make me have to do the splits.
There you go.
So there you go. John said, with all good cognitive and physiological effects of music, why is there not greater emphasis in the schools? I mean, why are music programs typically ill-funded or the first to be cut?
Sports.
Ugh.
Money goes to sports, John. We all know it. It's if you play sports and you've got a all-American potential, professional college scholarship coming. I mean, you get it, and you're there on that side. I would say that it's far deeper, and I don't want to get too long into this, but a lot of these dead white European composers, well, they were European and centuries old, and we've grown up with their shadows and in their midst, where they lived, where they performed, where they had their successes. And performing a Beethoven symphony in Bonn, where he was, I mean, it just makes it more special. There are connections. You grow up with the history and the culture of it. There's not really that history and culture of classical music in America yet. We're still a young country. And the athletic prowess of America, as you could see at every Olympic Games globally, is phenomenal. And that's great. And the focus has been kind of more on that than on arts and culture. That's a gross exaggeration. There are exceptions, of course. But even when I was teaching in England, we were always complaining that music is underfunded at the schools there. So it's a common thread. And I don't know why, people haven't got it at the top, that the cognitive, the Mozart effect, it makes you smarter. If you want to learn how to get on with other people, join an orchestra, or join a group. If you want to learn how to teamwork, join a group. If you want to learn responsibility, individual, join a string quartet, music, and sing in a choir. I mean, there are so many life lessons that we can have, and I have the same question that you do, John. It bothers me.
Okay. Jane says, how many musicians in the symphony are from South Bend, and how many come from Chicago or other places?
That's a great question. I kind of skirted that in my comments, because 90 years ago we were all local, all volunteers. That has changed over the years. I would say about 30% are within a 20-mile radius. I don't know what a number is. Well, how many symphony? We have maybe 70. So you can do your percentage. About 40%, 50% come from a 90-mile radius that includes Chicago, and we have, what am I left with? About 20% are come from further. We have somebody who drives in from Cincinnati. We have somebody who drives in from Minneapolis. We used to have someone who drove in from New Orleans. from where are we going? Somewhere in Tennessee. People come from all over to play with us.
Wow.
Pam,
Okay.
Pam, I'd
Yes.
like to just insert here that the people who come from far away many times need to be put up overnight because there are rehearsals several days ahead of the symphony. And so members of the community do that. And if people here don't know about that, you can volunteer to do that. We've done it, and we watch from our perch up on the mezzanine and see all the members of the community symphony that have been at our house and that we've been able to talk to. It's a really wonderful experience to do. Sorry, I didn't mean to take away.
No,
from
thank you,
your talk,
Melanie. That's so.
Thank you.
The connection. We're all playing together. We're part of the symphony. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah. Diane said, how will the South Bend Symphony continue to attract young musicians, particularly African-American and Latinx performers in this difficult time for professional musicians?
Well, we have auditions, and in fact, we've got violin and viola auditions coming up in November. We advertise them globally and all in the right places. So anybody can come. They're behind a screen so that the committee and I are listening with our ears. We're judging with our ears, not with our eyes. It makes it fair. So on that level, and everybody has an equal chance. It has been argued over the years that Latinx and African-American musicians aren't usually winning the jobs. And you've got to kind of look at why, and it has to do with education, has to do with opportunity, and all these things. There are now lots of fantastic Latino and African American musicians. The Sphinx organization has been around now for 15, 20 years, and they exist solely to promote African American and Latino musicians, and they have their own orchestra, their own groups, and they also send musicians out to play. We've had many a soloist from the Sphinx organization, and the latest brainchild of theirs is to say, look, here, this person might not win an audition, but can you give this violinist a chance to play a concert in your violin section? And so they have to be a certain standard, but it's like a no-brainer. This is how fantastic. We need to see diversity on stage, and we don't always do that. Some orchestras have wonderful diversity, but then to be sent a musician so that we can help nurture the person and they can get a great experience with us. I mean, lots of things are happening towards that, and I know that the future is a lot brighter than the past on that regard.
Okay, and Cynthia said, what would you do if you had all the money you wanted for the symphony?
Well, I'd raise their pay. We've just had a negotiation contract, and their pay has gone up. But my heart and soul are with the musicians. What they do, how they do it, that they're on the Freeway Philharmonic playing in 6 or 7 different orchestras. We're just one of them, and spend their lives dedicated to all these hardships. They deserve always more than they get. So if I had all the money I wanted with the symphony, for a start, it would a good percentage of that would have to go to the musicians first and foremost. After that, let's look at some really exciting projects, more concerts, maybe a tour, maybe going to Carnegie Hall with us, all sorts of things. But at the heart of that, it would be, how can we make our orchestra even more impactful for our community? It all starts, charity starts at home, music starts at home. How can we surround and embrace and hug our city, our communities even more? And we've got a great board, we've got a great staff already thinking along these things. And if you were to see where we were 5 years ago, and where we are now, you will see some big changes and some very exciting ones. And so what I do, I would get advice as to how to spend what is left after musicians.
There you go. John said, should the symphony orchestra be at least partially funded by the city or the county?
I think we are. Don't we get grants towards that? Beth, do you know?
I have no idea.
Okay, I know we get money from the city and these places. I don't know how much. Certainly, partially is a correct word. Never enough, though. Have a word. Tell them, will you please?
And then I'm asking again, given the programs that you've got now, are there more Latinx and African American folks attending the events, the symphony events?
Since our foray into the African American churches, going into the community for our Martin Luther King concerts, we have seen an increase in diversity in attending our concerts in the Morris and at DeBartolo. It's really hard to give a statistic because we're still coming out of COVID and the pandemic, so not everyone's coming. But fact is that our our American composers concert in March, made up of music solely by African American, was the most diverse audience we have ever had, ever. And we know that it's not just like a one-off. It's not like we are performing a Dia de los Muertos concert and we expect the entire Hispanic community to attend. No, that's not how it works. We need to have an ongoing relationship with them. It isn't just a one-off. And we know that, and we're onto that. And Marvin and our EDI committee have been proving that and living that. And we just have more work to do, always more work to do. But yes, our audiences are becoming more diverse. Have a look at West Side Story coming up, which is a collaboration with Civic Theatre. And we're involving for a start, we're having the Latina characters played by Latino and Latina people. So it looks real. This is very, very important. This is what everyone's doing now. And of course, that is attracting that community to come. The efforts made by South Bend Civic Theatre in being more open and inclusive are incredible along these lines. And we're now joining forces in our efforts for this. So yes, we are embracing more of South Bend than ever before. We all are. And it is so exciting.
Thank you. Linda.
I just want to add in, I just want to add in, if my on top of Al's remarks, two things. One, Morse Robertson was one of our concerts for the Celebration for a King was in the church where he was then music director. And Imorta had a concert at DeBarlo that set a new precedent as his doctoral concert. And I feel that this is a moment to embrace as a community across the South Bend Notre Dame community and across the St. Joseph County, Elkhart County community.
Oh, we lost you.
Whoops.
Well,
maybe she'll come back.
Maybe she will, but
yes. There she is.
There she is. We lost you, Beth, and you're muted.
Right. The person that Alastair has working with him shoulder to shoulder on West Side Story is none other than Juan Carlos Alarcon, who received his master's degree from Notre Dame, and who I met several years ago because he was on the board of directors for the Elk County Symphony. And I feel like it's important to recognize that there's not only the intent, but there's the actual accomplishment.
Okay.
You're breaking up a lot on that.
Yeah, we kind of got it.
Yeah. So Juan Carlos Alarcon is my assistant, is the music director in the rehearsals until I arrive, and he has a fantastic story if you don't know him. And he got a degree from Notre Dame. He's on the Elkhart Symphony board as well. That was what Beth was saying. So we are seizing these opportunities and the talent that is among us to keep expanding.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Linda says, thanks for the behind the scenes sessions that you have given at the Morris. Will there be more?
What do you mean by behind the scenes? Linda's not here.
Yeah, she's here. She's muted, but she's trying to find it.
Are you typing or are you going to talk to us, Linda?
Well,
There
yes,
she is.
let
There
me
you
talk
are.
to you, Alastair.
Okay.
My husband and I went to one of the preliminary, perhaps before the concerts, and there was a little cocktail party, and we had some hors d'oeuvres, and we were taken behind the Morris. We got to see where the musicians warm up, and we actually you had a bit of a rehearsal for us, and it was especially fun because it was a rehearsal where the musicians were out in the audience in different places, and you helped us understand that when musicians are elsewhere, they have to play a little differently so that the music arrives at the same time that everyone else is playing and hears it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I remember that very well now. Thank you, Linda. I hope we get to do them again, but COVID, of course, has stopped anything happening backstage unless you're a musician, have been tested 5,000 times and assigned your life away. It's been different. But yes, we love to have smaller groups behind the scene and give a little tour and find some insight. I find that fascinating when I've done that, when I visited other orchestras, because I can get backstage, do my own little tour if I know somebody. But yes, I hope we'll do them again soon. I don't think they're going to happen this season because I don't see masking or issues going completely away yet for a bit longer.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, and this will be the final question, except for the folks that are saying how grateful they are for your talk and how wonderful it's been, and to thank you for it. But here's the last question. What is from Melanie, what is your reach as far as the schools go, like to Goshen or Elkhart or places like that?
I think for our YPDC concert, Young People's Discovery concerts, we have from a huge Michiana area. I don't know the specifics, but I know somebody who does. I know we reach far and wide, way further than just the South Bend schools. I don't have that stat, but I know it is wide. I don't know if it's as wide as Goshen or Elkhart, but I can find that out for you, Melanie.
Okay.
Oh, I want to add something right to her question. I'm sorry. What is there any collaboration or with the Elkhart Symphony? Any kind of do you get along?
Sure. 4 years ago, we went to Elkhart and met with their board, and it was Agnieszka, the executive director, and the board president, and we had a great time. And we kind of talked about what kind of things we could collaborate on, and that's still on the table. But something called COVID came in the way, and we've all just had to tell. So, yeah, watch this space.
Okay, good, thank you. Now, Melanie, it's back to you again. Since
Yeah,
you're here.
okay. All right.
Thank you,
Thank
Alastair.
you. Thank you so much, Alastair, for coming and talking to us. And it's been very inspiring. And I hope that we'll see you again soon. And good luck with this season. And thanks again for talking to us. I think everybody
Thank you.
will. Yep.
And thank you, everybody else,
Yeah.
also for coming.
Okay. Yes. Thanks
Thank
to
you.
all our guests.
Wonderful.
Our
Thank you
Thanks
for
for
lovely
the
having me.
hour.
people.
It's
Okay.
been a pleasure, and long live the king.
Yes, yes, yes. Goodbye, everybody. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.